Cameron Lupton with AppSheetTraining.com, and today we're going to be talking about how to build a custom CRM using AppSheet. I just opened up a brand new Google Sheet, and it has nothing on it, not even a name. And so we're going to go through the entire thought process. All I have going into this webinar is this right here, a list of some functional requirements that I want to have done today. So you get to come along with me on the journey of going through the full thought process of starting with maybe you would consider this a client brief. Maybe this is what you've written down of what your own business needs internally. And these right here can change. The table names can change. The ideas, the concept, the business logic can all be changed. My goal in this video is to hopefully help you think logically on how to adapt these skills for your own business logic and use case. All right, let's get into it. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen, and I'll show you guys that I just have a very empty. I'm on the sign-in page for AppSheet.com. And then I have this right here. Let me hurry up and sign into AppSheet real quick. So I'm gonna go back to the slides real quick while I sign into AppSheet. All right. So right here, I have my Google Sheet, and it is currently labeled Untitled Spreadsheet. And this is likely where you guys are with your app currently, or you guys might be much further than me already. We want to go ahead and name this. And so I'm going to call this Crew CRM. Crew is the name of the company that runs AppSheet Training. It is where I'm a developer, and I'm going to be using Crew as a use case, and I'm going to be implementing a lot of our own business logic and operational logic into here. And so not only do you get to see how to build a CRM, you get a little bit of a glimpse of a generalized overview of how it is to work with Crew as a developer client. And so, all right, we have this right here. And on the functional requirements right here, we have, let's just go ahead and read through it. So my functional requirements are, for today's goals, is to have an employees table. We want to have different roles, and those roles are going to be admin, project manager, developer, and sales. Based off of these different roles, we really want the app to have a dynamic experience based off of which roles you are. Also, we want development teams. Here at Crew, we have 2 development teams. Each development team has 1 project manager and multiple developers. And so what that looks like is we're gonna have 1 project manager employee assigned to that team, and then we're gonna have many developers applied to that team as well. All right, next we have clients, and the clients will, not only will you be able to have a view and a slice of clients that are specifically active. And what this means is that this client has at least 1 project assigned to that client that belongs to that client, where the project is active. And so active for a developer or project manager means something slightly different than an active project for a salesperson. And so going down to the project, we see that we have statuses for projects, and those statuses also contain sales and contracts sent. And so these are statuses for the sales team. I'm not a salesman at Crew, and so I might not totally understand the full scope, and I would definitely want to bring in a thought leader and decision maker in the sales team to come alongside with me on this development to really refine this to their needs. But I have the statuses of sales and contract sent. After that contract is sent, we officially have a start date booked. And so that's like the not started, but it is booked, ready to go. And then we want to make sure a project has not only the development team that's assigned to, but each project from that team should have the project manager, a project champion, and an understudy. That is the exact same hierarchy we have within Crew for every single project. So every single project has the project manager from the team that it's belonging to, but it also has a project champion. These are the people who are going to be on every single call, who are going to be CC'd into every single email sent to the client. And they're going to be the go-to person that each task gets assigned to. And then we have the other role, an understudy. This is also a developer. And so a lot of times an understudy is there to, on a normal basis, the understudy is there so that they can, so that they're able to take over the project. If the project manager, if the project champion is sick or out of office or for any reason, but also they're there to complete QA tasks to make sure that each task is completed to our QA standards. And they're on some of the more milestone calls and they get updated on just about everything going on in the project. All right. And then as you can see, I'll run through the statuses real quick. We have sales, contract sent, start booked, in progress, completed, support, and closed. So some of our clients, after we're done building them an application, it's not done there. Sometimes they want to continue to have a relationship of us providing support for them as well. And so sometimes after a project gets completed, it doesn't go closed necessarily, but sometimes it's support. All right. I'm about to get started on this spreadsheet and working on it, but I want to ask a real quick question. Where's everybody from? Typing it out right now. Where's everyone from? I would love to hear where around the world we are from. Just cool to see the global reach that AppSheet has. And I know that AppSheet has a huge presence all over the United States, all over North America, but also things like India and Vietnam and Indonesia and Mexico. I'm just going to go ahead and throw some of these up. We have Jake Nod right here, an incredible AppSheet developer and friend of Crew Technologies. Jose right here is from Mexico. Awesome. We have Akul from India. Incredible to see. Also hit us with a smiley face. Let's go. We got USA. That's where I'm from. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. So I can go ahead and say howdy to you guys. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. Yeah. Crew Technology is also from Texas, but it's College Station, home of the Texas A&M Aggies. We got Leonardo. He's from Brazil. We have Patrick from Paraguay and Kelly from Amsterdam. So as you can see, we have a global audience right now. And that's just a testament of how powerful AppSheet is that it's able to fulfill the needs through customization of use cases around the whole world. We also got Argentina. So fun to see. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the CRM. And so here at Crew, let's get started with this real quick. For sheet one, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the first fundamental requirement, and that's employees. And so let's go ahead and zoom in this for you guys. I have a Apple Studio monitor, and so it's like 5K and it's ridiculous and hard to see when I don't zoom in. But let's go ahead and create an ID. We also want to set this table to employee. One standard I like to do is I like to do all lowercase. It's called snake case, lowercase with underscores instead of spaces. And then I like to do the singular version of the attributes. for the table name instead of the pluralized version of the attribute of the entity, let's call it. And so for the key, I always create the first column labeled ID. Makes it super easy to always remember without thinking. You just can fluently type in employee, all lowercase, singular, and then do brackets and do ID lowercase, and you don't have to think. You can just do it at the speed of thought, fluently thinking. You can jump around with all these different standards. It's cool. Sometimes if you're integrating with SQL or more traditional programming for extreme automations, then you might want to be thinking a little bit more about schema, naming, and stuff like that. But within AppSheet, you're likely fine. And so the most important thing is just stick with your own naming conventions. All right. So I have ID. This will be the unique ID for each record. And then for each employee, we want the first name. And I'm already breaking my own standards. First name. All right. And last name. So I like to do something a little different actually for users of the app. So employee is going to be the actual table representing the users of the app. And within AppSheet, there's a function called the user email that allows you to retrieve the user's email of the person who's currently operating the app. And so it makes it super easy to determine which of these records is the user on the phone at that moment. And so instead of ID, to make it really easy to query what record is the user using the app, I'm actually going to make the ID for user table to be email. It's impossible for two people to have the same email that are separate. So you can have multiple people log into the same email. That's one thing. But ideally, you have one email per user. And so I'll go ahead and type in Camron I would type in Crew Technologies, but our AppSheet account is actually running off of our old name, Grease.Solutions. This is our name from 7 years ago. Throwback if you know that name, Grease.Solutions. And my name is Camron Lupton. All right. And then we want to record some other attributes. So things we want to record is role. And so a role for me would be developer. And then let's go ahead and add my project manager. His name is Joshua at Grease.Solutions. However, I really don't want to bother him sending him a lot of emails while we're working on automations. And so I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to go ahead and change the email. That way it's not actually sending anything to him. So I'm going to say Greased Up Solutions, even grosser, Greased Up Solutions. And let's go ahead and call him Joshua. And I'll go ahead and give him just his initial for now. He has a last name that I can't just off the whim spell it. I know. And then I'm going to go ahead and build out a few more people for the rest of my team as my development team. And so not only do we have Joshua on my team, he's our project manager, but we also have Will. Will Giles. And then we have Wes. All right. And then we got Connor. And I'm just going to go ahead and just start doing random last name initials for them. That way they don't have to worry about their name being all over the place. So like as we can see, these two are these three are developers as well. And then there's one other thing that we want to do, and we want to say what team they're a part of. Right now, this isn't going to make much sense because we don't have a team table. All right, and then we want to go ahead and some other roles that we want is going to be an admin. And so we have Stefan, who's an admin, and we have Ben, who are admins. Let's go ahead and add them as admins. And we'll say Stefan, you. And might as well just give me my last initial as well. And then Ben A. And then let's start working on the other team. And so this is a separate development team. We'll go Matt. Got Matt, Landon. Got Matt, Landon, Alyssa, and Justin. You guys love Justin. Justin is my inspiration for this video because he rocked it on his full app build for his inspection app and his task tracking app. All right, so we got another project manager. Let's spell that right. And Matt is the project manager. Then we got more developers. Oh, we left one more. Sorry, Clark James, also a star of AppSheetTraining.com. Let's go ahead and get Clark James in there. All right. So we got project manager, got another developer, and let's say Matt, P, Landon, Q, Alyssa, S, Justin, L, and Clark, J. All right, so we got just about the whole table created for employees, and that might have took a little bit longer, and it was probably just stuff that you guys could do with your own data. But let's go ahead and go into AppSheet. So I have the homepage that you can go to, and then you can go to My Apps, and then I want to hit Create, and I'm going to create an app, and I want to start with existing data. So I'll call this Crew CRM Live Stream. And if you guys have any questions, just feel free to shout them out. I'll stop what I'm doing and give you a quick answer. And if not, I'll have Q&A. I'll have little segments where I can answer questions. And yeah. Will this project be available at the end of this presentation? I don't know if they'll be available immediately. But if you leave a comment in here afterwards, I will let you know whenever it is available, and I'll make sure it's something that you guys can copy. And then if you guys are watching this as a recording, it's likely available right now. Go in the description. This should be there. All right, so customer engagement, sure. Choose your data, Google Sheets. And so let's just go ahead and type in, what is the name of my sheet? Was Crew CRM. Boom. Gotta love Google Drive. It knows how to find everything. All right, so AppSheet is doing its magic right now. And I just got an email that I created an app, which is pretty sweet. All right, and so let's just check out what AppSheet has made for us right now. We have an employees table. where we're able to record all this stuff right here. We're able to add new ones, automatically have a form. That's awesome, super easy. And then we can edit them. We can delete them if we want to. But if we go ahead and look at this, we already see some stuff that isn't ideal. And so things like role, I can just type in admins. And so that's not ideal. I can type in any team, and that's not ideal also. We want this to be a ref, and we want this to be an enum option right here. And so let's go ahead and cancel this. Let's close this, and let's go to the data. So if we go to the column tabs instead of data and go to employee, we can see all this information about the employee. And we want role to be an enum. And then you can either add all your options right here. I already have it all typed out on Google Slides. And so I'm just gonna copy paste it. And I'll show you how you guys can make a list using copy pasted. Let's see. So I'm on the other screen copy pasting. All right. And so instead of saying allowed values right here, what we want to do is we want to scroll down to data validity, go to the valid if, and we want to either return a yes, no of if something is valid or not, or we want to return a list of valid options. The options that we're choosing are going to be individual elements of text. And so we want to put a list of text or return a list of text somehow of each of the individual roles within our business. And so I copy pasted this from my slides from the functional requirements. Maybe you're copy pasting it from your client brief or from your boss's requests email. And I'm just going to go ahead and click it, and then I hit single tick quotation marks, and it automatically wraps it. So let me go ahead and do this. And what I'm doing real quick is I am creating a list of all the valid options I want for our users to select. And we want to replace this with a comma, and then we want this. Okay, so AppSheet sees this, but as you can see right here, it only sees it as a single text that says admin. What's up, Diego? We got Diego from Argentina. We officially have multiple people from Argentina, which is pretty cool. So it only is recognizing admin right now. Even though I've made a comma separated list, it's not recognizing it. It's just recognizing the first text before the comma. There's multiple ways I can do this. I can either go like this and wrap it in parentheses and then say list, and then it will turn it into a list of text elements. Another shortcut I could do is I could just go ahead and hit it with the curly brackets. That also turns it to a list, a little shortcut to the list function. So let's go ahead and save that. And let's say this is buttons, and hit done. And then team, we'll go ahead and do that next. And so team is going to be a really easy table, but let's hit save, and let's confirm real quickly that these are looking good. And so we go here and we can select the role. That's great. Let's make sure all these other columns are how we want them to be. And so email, we want that to be an email data type. First name is name, last name is name. Enum for role, that's great. Text for team, that's good for now. It will be a ref. And then we have computed name, which is the first concatenated with a space, and the last name as the label for the record. And so that is ideal and perfect. Good job, AppSheet, for recognizing that. And we have all these showing. All of them are editable. And then we want to require that they have a team, a last name, a first name, an email, and a role. So we actually want them to have everything required. Let's go ahead and not do team actually, because sales and admins won't be part of a development team. All right, so this is looking good. And let's hit save. And then what we can do is we can go ahead and switch over to working on development teams. And so development teams are the groupings of I can't talk at all. The groupings of developers and project managers into individual teams. These are the ones who run and are assigned the projects. And so let's go ahead and go to Sheets and create another source. And what are we going to do for the ID? We're going to call it ID. For the sheet name, we're going to go ahead and call this Teams, but I like to do singular, so I'm just going to do team. And we're going to do name, the team name. And guess what? That's it. That's all I need. And so let's go ahead and go back into AppSheet. And if I click here, it doesn't recognize I added a new sheet. And so I would have to go all the way back into Sheets, find it inside my drive. But since I've added that, all I have to do is give AppSheet a little bit of a kick. And then if I go here, it should recognize that. Oh, didn't recognize it. Usually it recognizes that I added a sheet to the file that I'm using. And so I guess I will have to go ahead and do that again. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it. It's the bad thing about switching back and forth. So what I was showing is that usually whenever you reload and you go to data and hit add, usually it's recognized that you added a new page or new sheet to the file that you're currently using, but it's not doing that right now. And so I'm going to type in through CRM again, go here and hit add table. Also really cool that you can add multiple tables now. Incredible. All right, so we've got team table, and look how simple that is. So good. We have a key and a name. We want to actually not show the ID because it's going to be a unique ID function, which is just eight character unique string. Makes no sense at all. But a computer is able to remember it and not get confused with anything else. That's all that matters. And so let's go ahead and hit save. And as you can see, we're just working with data right now. We haven't really designed stuff in the app yet. Let's go ahead and go to the team page down here. And let's go ahead and create a quick view that is just called teams. All right, and this will be a table view. And then we want the data type to be team. And then let's hit save. And then if we go to the teams table, let's go ahead and add the two teams that that we have within crew. So let's go ahead and do async. If you know anything about crew technologies, we make a whole lot of dumb puns using the letter Q because of the Q instead of crew. And so our first team is async. And our second team is, man, I don't even remember. They're just not as good of a team. I can't remember what their team is. Let's just say Q team until I remember it. All right. So now we want to actually assign our employees to which of these two teams they're on. Well, if we go here, then go here to edit me, and then actually edit it, I don't have the teams that are selected. And if I type in async, then it's not going to make the connection to it because it's not the ID. And so let's go ahead and go back to the employees, the data for employees, and we can now set team, the team right here, as a reference to the team table. And so now what that allows us to do is we now have a drop down of teams that that user is assigned to. And so we go to this right here, and we can go to Alyssa, select Q team, and let's select Camron for async. Now, as you can see, I am selecting the label, the name of the team, but let's see what it's actually storing within the Google Sheets. So in the Google Sheets, it's storing this weird character right here, this weird string of text. So if I copy this and then do Control F over here and find it, we can see that it's actually the primary key of the async record. And so that is how the actual app is able to recognize what team I belong to. To make this really fast, I'm going to go ahead and copy this to all the people on my team. And I'm going to copy this one to all the people on the team, other team. And so as we can see, we have for async, we have all these users. We can see that these users right here are admins, and that these users right here belong to the other team. As we mentioned, we have one more user role, and that is sales. And so that is going to be our guy, Austin Skidmore. And so let's go ahead and add an email for Austin. And do Austin and S, and he is not on the team. And so we're going to go ahead and continue. So as you can see inside this app, we can go ahead and resync. And if we click into this, we should be able to see that each person has a team. I'm going to go ahead and clean up this view just a tad. So I click on this little hyperlink that is a shortcut to that views editor. And we want to actually change this into a table. And we want to start off with a computed name. We want to group the individual records by their team. And then we want to also, so it's ascending, so it's alphabetical for full name. And then what columns do we actually want to show on it? So if we went to it right now, I'm going to go ahead and nice. We got someone from Chandler, Arizona. Pop up. Thanks for joining. Glad to have you here. All right. So now if we look at this, we have a list of all of our users. We have them grouped by what team they are. And so we have right here, blank, async, and then Q team. And so the use of team is for these to be specifically development teams. I could make a team that says like operations or do a sales team that Austin could be assigned to. And then I could have Ben and Stefan maybe as operations or C-level or something like that. But instead of just keeping it blank, I'm going to do a virtual column to group them. And so let's go ahead and create that just to clean it up just a tad. Might be a little premature to be focusing on this nitty-gritty yet, but this might be a fun expression for you guys to see. So an employee, we want to add a virtual column. This is going to be super easy to compute. It's going to have no problem running this on 6 records or 1,000 records. And so we're going to say, let's call this table group by. And so we just want to make something that we're grouping the tables by. And so the app formula for this is going to be if So if this is true, we want to do this, else we want to do this. So if the team, and then we want to wrap the team inside of is blank, is not blank. So if the team is not blank, what we want to do is we want to use the teams, and we want to dereference the name of the team. So we want to use the team's name. If they aren't on the team, let's call them operations. Oops. I assume that's how you spell operations. I might be crazy right now. So essentially, if they have a team and the team column is not blank, it's gonna populate this virtual column with that user's team's name. Otherwise, it's gonna place them within a group called operations. And so let's go ahead and hit save. Actually, let's do this. Sorry, this is harder. So let's do ifs. So if they don't have a team, if they do have a team, do this. If their role is equal to sales, do this. And I spelled sales so wrong. And I have to wrap it in quotation marks. Slow down, Camron. And then if their role equals admin, so let's do sales. And then let's do admins, or let's do operations. Okay, so let me explain this expression to you guys real quick. So the ifs expression works like this. So we see condition 1, value 1, condition 2, value 2. And then we see ... What this is saying is that if this one is true, it returns the value to this. If that is not true, it moves on to the next condition. And if this one is true, it returns this. But if both of those were false, it moves on to the next one. And you can do this infinite amount of times. And so if they don't have a team, we're checking if they're sales. If they're sales, we're going to label them sales. If they're an admin, we're going to label them operations. And then we're going to do one more just to catch all. If they are not on a team, they're not sales, they're not admin, we're just going to say no team. And hopefully that works as a sign of, hey, you need to put this person on a team or make him admin or sales. So let's hit save. Let's hit done. And then now we need to go back to that table for employees, and we need to set the group by to be that new column that we just made. So table group by, and then that should look good. So we have async operations, queue team, and then sales. And so I think that looks good. Let's hit save. One thing I want to do real quick. I'll pass on that. Sorry. All right, so we're 40 minutes in, and we have the hierarchy of a team. Let's go ahead and start off with the next step, which is a client. All right, so a client we should be able to see a client's active projects. We should be able to manage a client's contacts and manage client notes. And so client contacts and client notes are going to be on separate tables from a client table. And so I'll show you how that works. Let's go ahead and go back to the Google Sheet and yet again, add another table. So we're going to be building an app that has maybe 6 or 7 tables. And so let's get this going. Right here, we have client. And for a client, we want an ID. We want a name. Maybe we want to record things like industry. Maybe we want to record something about first contact. The first time we made contact with that client. Maybe the sales team or something wants to be able to favorite them. And so maybe let's do a favorited by. That would be a fun feature to do. That way it would be at the top of their list. Okay. And then let's say what team they're assigned to. The team assigned. All right, so we have the name, team, industry, first contact, favorited by, and team assigned. Sounds good to me. We might be able to add more to it. Let's go ahead, instead of adding data here, let's fix up the form and add data inside the form. And so we're going to go back in here, give this a little refresh. And then go to Sheets. Go to find the sheet again, CRM, crew CRM. And we want to add that table. All right. And then we want to clean up the data types for this table. So email or client. Okay. ID is going to be a text, which is good. We should hide that. The unique ID means nothing to actual humans. Name, that is great to be the label. Industry, that's great to be text. Maybe we want to make it enum, and we can add some industries. So if you guys in the chat want to go ahead and shout out an industry for me to add, I'll go ahead and add some. I'm thinking like Google is tech, but go ahead and shout some out and I'll add them. We got tech, we got media we could do. We got transport. Thank you, Jake. All right. Let's get one more from the crowd. And then we got finance, finance. All right. And so we want to actually allow other values. And so people can add values in the future. We just want to not have it be a plain text. That way somebody doesn't type in tech and spell it differently. We want the data to be clean where it's easy to group. So let's hit done. Industry is done. First contact, that's going to be date. We're going to assume that the first contact is that we should make that the day that this gets created. At least if that's not right, it might be a good starting point for them to just like go back 3 days if the first contact started recently. But so we're going to set an initial value for this first contact table, and we're going to do the function called today. And so that whenever you start a new record, it auto sets the first contact value to today. All right, favorited by, that is going to be an enum list of references. So enum list ref, and it's going to be enum list ref of employees. So these are the employees where they said, this is one of my favorite clients. Not because we have favorite clients, but because sometimes we want to put a client at the top of the list because it's a client that we work with every single day. Team assigned. So we want to make this a reference to teams. And we want the sales to go ahead and pass this off, or one of the admins. And so let's go ahead and add a little bit of user permissions. Maybe for the first time in this app, we're going to use some user permissions. And so that's going to require a few things. Let's go ahead and hit save before we get started. And so to create some user permissions, the best way to do this is to create a current user table. And so we want to say, we want to show, hide, allow edits, or whatever if the user role is inside this list of roles. And so the best way to query that really easily without having a long expression is to create a slice of the employees table or the users table or whatever. And we want to call this one current user. You guys might have seen my YouTube short over this current user table or slice. Super useful. We want to go ahead and add an expression and say the email. We want to return the record for the email is equal to the email of the user currently using the app. So email column is equal to user email. So let me type that correctly. All right, and so whenever I'm using this app, it's only going to have in this slice the record for my employee entry. And so let's go ahead and hit save. And then let's go ahead and let's think with business logic, who should be able to go into the clients table. I'm gonna go ahead and create another view for a client real quick. So I'll say clients, and then clients will be a client, and then let's say table. Let's hit save. Okay, so what user types, what roles should be allowed to assign or change what team is assigned, what client is assigned to what team? I think that admin should be able to do it, and then sales, because sales have to start off with a blank entry, create the entry, and then actually assign it to a team afterwards. You probably could justify a project manager, and that would probably be valid also. But we're just going to do admins and sales. And so let's go ahead and add a client, and we'll call this Google. Industry is going to be tech. First contact, let's say we made first contact with this client back in April 9th, 2024. Favorited by, it's not favored by anybody right now. Team assigned is going to be async. Let's hit save. We actually want to go ahead and hide this because this is just strictly a utility column. It's not for anybody to really see. So we're going to go into this column, edit column, and no longer show it. And so the way I did that is you can toggle on this edit toggle. It allows you to hover over a column on the editor, on the emulator, and edit it straight from there. Super nice. Let's save that record. Let's save the app as a whole. And then let's go to clients. We have Google. Let's go ahead and type in Amazon. Industries also, let's say tech, questionable. Contact was today. Team assigned is going to be Q team. And then let's do one more team. And let's say this team is going to be, what is a company? Let's do transport. So let's do United Airlines. Okay, so this doesn't have a team assigned to it yet. Okay, so what we want to do is we want team assigned to only be editable by those two user types. So let's get back to that. So we want to go to team assigned and say that this should only be editable with this Flask. If you don't see this Flask, what you can do is you can click this, and then you can scroll down to here, update behavior, and then you'll see something like this. Instead of doing a Boolean yes, no, this is editable, you can click the Flask and do an expression instead. So we created a slice called current user. If you guys remember, this current user is a segment of the employee table where the only record in it is the record for that user, where their email is the same email as the record, if that makes sense. So Camron at Grease.Solutions should only see the record where the email for that record is Camron at Grease.Solutions. And so this slice right here only has one record in it, and it's mine. So I want to see if my role, so right here, what this does is it returns a list of all the roles of all the records in this slice, which is only one record. However, AppSheet still is looking at this as a list. And so what we want to do is we want to wrap this in an any. So you can use an any, you can use a min, you can use a max, you can do an index, you can do whatever you want because it only has one record in it. You're not going to mess this up. And then we want to see if the current role, so for me, it's developer. For Austin, it's sales. We want to see if the current role is in, so we're going to use the in function. First parameter of the in function is a value. We want to see if this value is inside of this list. And the list that we're going to do is admin and sales. So we want to see if the current user's role is in this list of roles, which is admin and sales. And so I, as a developer in this app, should not be able to go into United Airlines, hit edit, and then change who it's assigned to. That is not possible for me to do. But let's say this is Austin, and he has a different domain. So let's do greased up, hit apply. He should be able to go in here and change who it's assigned to. It's assigned to async, hit save, and all that stuff. Now we have that done. And so let's go ahead and go to clients, and let's group this by what team they're in. So we'll do group by team. And then we want to customize what columns are in there. So we want name, and that's all we want to show. It's just the name. So we have the name of them, and we have the grouped by team assigned. Hit save. So I did not group this right. Oh, okay, yeah, it's grouped by team right here, and then this is showing the name. Don't fully like that it says name right there. It's not the coolest thing. We can maybe add industry also. So let's go ahead and add industry. Here we go. So we now have teams, employees, clients. If we go here, we want to go ahead and add client contacts and client notes. Client notes is pretty easy, and it might be an easier way for us to introduce this concept of child records for a client. And since the relationship between client and client contacts and client notes, very, very similar. So let's go ahead and go to Google Sheets, hit this, and we'll call this client note. We want an ID for the client note. We want a client ID. So this is the client that this is a note for. And then we have a note type. And so this note type may be text, file, or photo, let's say. So based off of which of the types it is, we want to show and hide different columns. So we have text, file, photo. And then let's go ahead, regardless of the type, let's go ahead and insert left a title. So this can be a shorter title for the note. Maybe you want to do a title for the file or a title for the photo. Oh no, you guys can't see again. Okay. So thank you, Patrick, for shouting that out. Thank you, both you guys. So all I did was I went back here, created this new sheet, which I'll go ahead and do that again real quick. So I'll delete it, hit add new, client, note. And then we want an ID, a client ID. We want a title, a type. So the type can be text, photo, or file. So we want text. We want a column to store the text. If they select text right here, we want a column to store photo if they select photo. And then we also want them to have a column to store a file if they select file. So let's go ahead and jump back into the app. Go here, hit new. We want to go to Google Sheets. Oh, oops, I forgot one thing I want to do. I want to say date, time, added. The idea with date, time, added is I want it to show, I want them to be ordered by how recently they've been added. And so I want the newest ones up top. So let's go ahead and go back to the application editor. Go to my drive and crew CRM. Add table. All right. We're almost a whole hour in. Good job, guys. So we have client notes, and we just want to set the data types for all these. And so we have ID, which is great. We want that to be the key. But we want title to be the actual label. Client ID is going to be a reference to the client. So it's saying which client is this client note referring to. Type, we want this to be enum. And for the options for enum, we want this to be text, photo, and file. Hit done. And let's go ahead and let's hit save real quick. And then I'm going to show you guys how to dynamically show which of these we want to show based off of, let's turn text into long text. We want to show which one of these three it is based off of which type it is. And so let's go ahead and scroll here for the show column. We don't have the flask. So what we want to do is we want to click the text pencil. And then for the show, we want to hit the flask and do a dynamic expression. So if the type of this record is equal to text, we want this to show. Otherwise, it's not going to show. It's going to hide. Hit save. And then for photo, we want to say if the type of this one is photo, we want the photo column to show, the image one. And if it's a file, so if it is a file, or you can say document or something. Let's hit save, let's hit done, let's hit save. And so one cool thing we can do with references is like right here, we have the editor right here, and we can hit add new, and then it automatically fills it in with that client that we were on, that we added new from. And we can say, let's say United. Let's go to United. And maybe this wouldn't be a note that you'd be taking long term or something like that, but you can say United down and say, see, as you select one of these, it changes which one of these columns it's showing right there. And so we can, oops, I want to add initial value for date time added, and I want it to not be editable. So initial value is going to be null. Now function returns the date time of the device currently running this operation. And so if our friend Abraham is using a device in Egypt, welcome, thank you. Awesome to have you here from Egypt. But if you are creating a record in Egypt, it's going to use the date time in Egypt. If I'm entering this record from Fort Worth, Texas, it's going to use the date time of Fort Worth, Texas. And so I don't want this to be editable. It's whenever it got created. It should be a source of truth. And so now if we hit save, let's look at the different ways that we can create a new client note. So we can go over here and hit add client note, and we can say United is down. And for text, we can say United Airlines flights are delayed due to crowd strike. Update. And then we could go ahead and also add another photo of the big old blue Windows error screen. But we want to go ahead and clean this up. And so let's change this to show the text. So we want the summary column to be a text. No, not summary, secondary header to be text. And then we want the summary column to be type. And then, so if we go to clients, we go to United Airlines, we see United down, United Airlines flights are delayed due to crowd strike. Looks good. And this has text right there. I don't think we need these actions. I think they take up too much space. They don't look that good. Let's hit save. One thing that this is not the best at doing is showing multiple types of data well. Because we want to show an image dynamically. What is better at doing that is actually a card view. And so if you have an inline view inside of a record that looks like this, that's a deck view, you don't have to settle for how this looks. You can click view right here, and then you can go to client note inline, and then you can change that inline view from a deck into any of these you want. I'm going to go ahead and do a card view, and I'm gonna do, let's see which one looks best. I'm gonna do this. So title goes here. Let's put a title there. Let's put text there. And then let's do a photo there. And that photo is only gonna show up if, that photo is only gonna show up if there's a photo in it. So let's go ahead and hit save. I'm going to go ahead and add one that has a photo in it, but I don't want to share my my folders for my device. And so I'm going to go ahead and switch screens. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert a photo. And I have this custom CRM background that I'll add. And then I'll go back to the AppSheet viewer and go back to clients and then go back to United. And I just added this photo right here. And so it would dynamically display the photo if you had it. Let's go ahead and edit and say, let's add a title to it. So what would be a good title for this? United wallpaper. I don't know. But you'd be able to store notes that are also images, and it shows it well. So if we go back to clients, go to United Airlines, we can see that we have United down, United flights, airline flights are delayed due to CrowdStrike update. And then we have the United wallpaper. I don't like how this is showing up right here. So let's go here and say this is none. And there we go. I think that looks clean. It's a good way to visualize notes. One downside of this is that it doesn't do files very well. It's can't really display a file too well. And so if you were to add a file to this, all it would really show is the title of the file. And so you'd probably want to use some sort of title that explains what the document is. So you could say like United App SOW or something like that, scope of work. And so let's go ahead and hit save. So those are client notes within a client table. So if we go to clients, let's go full screen. Let's check out this app full screen and see what we have. You can see desktop mode is a little different. We can go to clients and we'll do a lot of cleanup. Obviously, you can see that all these column names are still showing the database names. All that will be cleaned up. These views aren't looking the best. The icons aren't unique. We have no branding at all right now. It is what it is. But if we go to United Airlines, we can see the client's related notes. And you can see them right there based off of what type of note type it is. It's showing it dynamically, which is great. Yeah, I think next we can go ahead and start working on the client contacts. And so let's get to that. So I'm not going to forget switching views again. And we're going to go ahead and hit add new sheet. And we're going to call this client contacts. Pretty crazy how quickly you can work with an app sheet, even with me explaining this while I'm going, making mistakes, communicating with the audience. I'm still able to build an app that would take months and months of traditional coding. I can do it so far in only an hour and 8 minutes. So let's keep on going. Just want to shout out AppSheet. It's so cool. So for the client contact, we have an ID. We have the client that this contact is for. We have their name, first name. We have their last name. We have their email. We have their phone number. And we have their role within their business. And maybe we have another record that says client primary contact. So maybe this is a primary contact and this is a true, false, yes, no. That way we want to reach out to this client and this contact before other contacts within this company. So let's go back to AppSheet. Let's go ahead and add that new table. Oh, not AppSheet databases. So let's do crew CRM. Didn't even have to type it in right. That Google Drive blurry search is great. All right. So we're going to go ahead and do this client contacts before we do a little UX UI cleanup segment, but just want to let you guys know that's coming. We're going to clean up this app to make it a little bit nicer now that we have stuff together. All right. And so we just added this new table. First thing we do after adding a table is we go to the schema for it. We set data types, we set essential additional values, app formulas, all that stuff. So ID is text, is key. That's great. We want it to be hidden. So uncheck the show column. We also want client ID to be a reference. This is the reference that this client belongs to. First name is name, email is email, phone number is phone, text, role is text. These people aren't the same roles that we are within our company. We want to kind of have more of an open way to determine what role they are within their own business instead of trying to create this as an enum to start off with. Client primary contact, that's going to be yes, no. All right. And so let's go ahead and hit save. And so we have this. And instead of showing you this add button, I'm going to show you guys another way to add child records other than hitting the add button right there. How are we going to do this? We're going to go to this reference for client ID. We're going to hit the edit pencil, and we're going to make this is part of. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for client note as well. Hit the edit pencil and make this is part of. No visual changes in the app so far, but we'll be able to see that whenever we click the form for it, we're now able to hit new note within the form or new contact. And so what this is useful for is if I'm adding a new client right now, and inside of media, we have a new client called YouTube, which might be Google, might just have that as client Google, I'm not sure. Team assigned, async, and then you could go ahead and add new notes. And so we would want this to say something else than other than client note entries that reference this entry in client ID column. That's very technical messaging for an app user. It feels like messaging that you would use to a developer. And so I don't know why this is the default description for this column. But let's go ahead and hit new contact. And so at YouTube, let's say this contact is Ronald Smith, made up person. Sorry if you are Ronald Smith working at YouTube. So we'll do Ronald at youtube.com. I'm sure that they would actually be Ronald at google.com. Their phone number is going to be 123456789. Their role is going to be content creator outreach manager. Are they the primary contact for this client? Yes, they are. Okay. So we definitely would want to change what is showing up right here. You'd probably want to say Ronald Smith and then have like their role probably rather than their client ID, because ultimately that should be hidden once we hit save. Client contact, yeah, it's hidden. So once we hit save, that won't be there anyways. But let's hit save. And now let's save the app just to give it a break from remembering all this stuff without saving it. Inside of YouTube, not only did it create the YouTube client, but it also created a related contact. And so let's go ahead and edit this related contact view. And let's say we want this to be a card view. We want this to be a list. We want their name to be first. We want their concatenated computed name. And then we want their role. And then we want action 1 to be call them, or really email them. So we want to be able to compose email. We want to be able to call them, or we want to be able to SMS them. And so if we hit save and go back to the desktop screen of this app, go to clients, go to YouTube. Now we see Ronald Smith. We can add new contacts if we wanted to, but we can also click this triple drop down snowball stack menu, and then we get to see the different action buttons that we want to do. So we can either email that person, you choose what you want to use the email, and then you can also call them or SMS them, especially useful if you're happening to do this from your phone. All right, so the last thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and sort this, where I want the contacts, the primary contacts at the top. So I'm going to add one more, just to make it easier. This one's going to be Josh Swanson. If I can type at all, Swanson. This is going to be Josh at youtube.com. Phone number is going to be the backwards version of his. And then this one, what I say, content creator outreach assistant. I think that's how you spell it. And this one's not a primary contact. So save. And then we want to go back over here. Let's make sure that's synced. We go back over here to clients. We go to YouTube. I have him right there. We want to go to view, and we want to actually make sure that this view is sorted by client primary contact. So we want the primary contacts to be at the top, and that is actually the opposite right now, because false alphabetically comes before true alphabetically. So we want descending. And then we're gonna do one more thing. We're gonna add a format rule to the name of the contact who are primary contacts. So let's go ahead and do this and say primary contact. And then this is going to be for client contacts. We'll say client primary contact. Since this is a yes or no, we don't have to say client primary contact equals true, because this already returns true, false. So let's hit save. Let's go ahead and make their highlight color. Let's make their text color blue, or the primary color of the app. Let's make them bold. And let's do an icon of maybe a crown. And make that blue also. And so as you can see right there, there's a little blue crown next to the primary contact, just to make them stand out a little bit more if you're manually doing something. We're going to use this column for future automations to send only to the primary contacts. But yeah, we have that right there, and I think that's looking sweet. Well, actually, the app itself is looking terrible. And as a graphic designer, as the UX UI guy at Crew, this is an abomination. And so I want to go ahead and clean this up, make it look better, and all that good stuff. And so let's go ahead and get into UI. We'll go to branding first. So we can just hover over this, hit here, and it brings us to branding. Okay, don't want to work on an icon right now. Which one is the best project manager one? The CRM one? I don't know. Maybe this one. This one shows connections, maybe. Let's do this. That's good. Shows a cycle of clients going through cycles. And so light mode, dark mode. Obviously, dark mode is just better because it is. But another thought is that if your app users are maybe in the fields and they are looking at their phone with bright sunlight shining on them, dark mode isn't always the best solution. A CRM like this for developers and stuff is likely going to be in a dark dev cave with no windows and center block walls, and dark mode is just fitting. So let's go with dark mode. We're going to go ahead and select the new crew friendly, crew branded AppSheet color. So I would say the crew logo, the crew branding is probably close to that right there. I would say that's probably pretty dead on. I could check that later. But that's the branding of the app so far. Show view name in the header. I think we can skip that. Show logo in the header. This logo I'm not married to. If we had a better logo right there that really represented it better, sure. But no. Hide menu. We want the menu. We want to actually move a lot of this stuff into the menu because this isn't stuff that you click very often. Style. Do we like that? Do we like that? I really like this. It highlights the one that you have selected. I think that looks the cleanest. So let's go ahead and select the accented footer. Style type, Roboto is just classic. Favorite font right now is Molish, not an option. Wish this had access to all Google fonts. That would be incredible. All right, let's hit save. And then we want to go ahead and clean up these icons, put them inside of the side menu. We want to take advantage of that stuff. So teams, let's go ahead and do a team icons. And so we'll go to display. We'll do users. And this has a good grouping of teams. Maybe we want to do something like this. It shows a project manager with some developers behind them. Pretty sweet. All right, Alexander. Do you know when the AppSheet toolbox will be fixed? Yeah, it's been hard for us to keep it updated all the way, and we're trying to work diligently to get it fixed. I think that I saw from some YouTuber a YouTube video on how to fix one of the issues. I think that one of the issues is fixed by that YouTube video. I don't know if you can search it. But the biggest issue that we're seeing with AppSheet Toolbox right now, it just takes longer. Like AppSheet Toolbox is not a no-code solution where we can just do something like this and fix it. We have to upload it, get it approved by Google Chrome Store. But the primary issue with AppSheet Toolbox, it seems like right now, let me know if this is your issue, is if you sign in using your Gmail, you're not able to sign in using your Gmail on the actual toolbox as well. And so what you want to do for that issue is you want to go ahead and go to the sign in for AppSheet Toolbox for AppSheetTraining.com. Go to the sign in for that. If you're already logged in, go ahead and log out. Type in your email into the email field and hit I forgot password or recover password or whatever. It'll send you a recovery password. And the reason why this is the case is because whenever you do single sign in with your Google account, it doesn't ask you for a password, even though the Chrome extension does require a password. And so it's going to say, here's a link to reset your password. You can reset your password there, and you're able to reset your password to an actual password. Then you're able to go to AppSheet Toolbox and sign in using your email and that new password you created. Let me know if that's the issue that you're having. Also, with AppSheet, there's this right here, which toggling this on and off sometimes helps, or toggling it off and then restarting it. This shows the legacy one instead of the new one. A lot of times that helps. So let me know if either of those are the problems you were having, Alexander. And yeah. Okay, Alexander, just let me know what your issue is, and maybe I can speak on it. All right, let's hit save, and let's continue to clean up this app a little bit. All right, so employees, we want to go ahead and make this a new icon, and we'll do user, and this is just individual user. So let's just do a single person. And then clients, clients. Maybe a different type of user. Maybe we can do like an industry or something. A book of them is nice. I think that's a good icon for clients, is a book. Oops, I did the wrong table. So go here, display, user. Book of clients, hit save. Actually, none of these actually are the ones that we want to be primary buttons. And so we're actually going to move all these over into the menu. And so let's go ahead and change this to menu. For employee, make that menu. And then team, make that menu. Let's hit save. So we actually have no primary actions in any primary views anymore on the thumb bar. And they're all right here now. And that's because the primary function of this app is to show active projects to the user using the app. And that is a table that we don't really have yet. And so we want to go ahead and create the projects table. And so if we go back to our functional requirements right here, we have projects. We want to assign a project manager, a project champion, and an understudy. Alexander, I have not experienced that issue yet. I would love if you went ahead and just reached out to me at Camron@careertech.com. Maybe you can send screenshots and we can talk after this or tomorrow. I just sent you my email that you can reach out to. All right. So where were we at? We are adding projects. So let's go back here, and we want to go to projects, and we want to go to type in project. We want an ID, a client ID. This is the client that the project belongs to, the project that the client belongs to. And then we have the name of the project, the status of the project, the team, the project manager. I am doing uppercase, project manager. Let's do lowercase team. And then we'll do project champion. And then understudy. All right, let's hit save. Now let's go ahead and bring this in. For sure, Alexander. And then we want to go ahead and add this new table, not AppSheet database, Google Sheets, crew, CRM, and add table. And then we want to go ahead and clean up the columns. So we have project. This needs to be a ref to the client project in the client table. All right, and then we also want to hide the ID. We have name as the label, that's great. We have status. So we have a list of statuses. Let me go ahead, go back to the slide and copy those. So if we go there, we see the different statuses. And the statuses don't only belong to developer statuses, but they're also sales statuses. And so I'm on the other screen copy pasting. All right. And so for statuses, we want to set this to enum. Values, we're going to actually do it in the valid if. Paste that. So it can have a status of sales. It can be contract sent. I'll say start date booked. In progress, completed, support, closed. We're going to go ahead and wrap this in a list, just like that, with the curly brackets. Sorry, curly brackets. And there we go. Got it. Hit save. We're going to do this to drop down, and we're going to require this. We go here for status right here. Scroll over to require. Boom, required. And then for project manager, we only want users where their user is. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Jake. Working without a screen again. Gotta love live streams. So I went into status and I copied from the slide that you guys were stuck on all the statuses that were there. I wrapped each one individually in quotation marks. And then I wrapped it in curly brackets so that AppSheet understands it as a list of text. I set this as an enum. They're going to be enum text. And it's a dropdown. I also went into status, screwed it down here, and marked it required. We can assume that the start of every status, it starts in sales. And so we can go here to auto compute, go to initial value, and do sales. Hit save, hit done. And then these are needing to be references to a user, to the employee table, but each one is going to require something slightly different. So we'll change the valid if after we set these to references to the employees table. And team is a reference to the team table. Okay, so now we want to do the validation for it. Oh no, I accidentally opened it up in another screen. And so all that work was not saved. As you can see, this red banner. So the hardest part I did was the status validation. So I'll go ahead and copy that before I reload this. Give it a good old reload, a reload of shame, knowing that I opened it up on another screen. And then we're going to really quickly add all that back. And so just looking back at what all I still need to do. So I need to set, you go to project, All this looks right still. This needs to be a ref to the client table. All right. Status needs to be enum of text-based types. It's going to be drop downs, and these are the valid ifs list that I shared earlier. So hit save. We want to make sure that the status is required. The initial value for it. Oh, this is name. Name should be required anyways, though. The initial value for it should be sales. All project starts with sales. Thank you, Austin. And then team is ref. And then project manager is a ref to the user, to the employee table. Project champion is a ref to the user table, employee. And understudy is an employee as well. So let's go ahead and do ref, employee, done. Let's actually save it this time without having conflict of app version. Okay, and so it's going to do a few things that are a little intelligent. So a client, as we can see, already belongs to a team. And so if you create a new project for a client that already belongs to your team, we can maybe infer that we should make this project assume that it's going to start off on this team. So for the initial value, this does not need to be a formula because it can change, or it should be able to change. But we want the team to be the client's assigned team. And this is going to be a bit of a string of logic. So after team, we can assume the project manager is the only project manager inside there. And so we can say select. Well, let's do this first. Let's go to the valid if. So valid if should only be allowed to select from. So we want a list of employees. And then we want to return their emails. And it's okay. We want only employees for project manager where their role is equal to project manager. But it would be weird for me to have this project for async and then select the project manager for another team. So not only do we want that to be true, but we also want this to be true. So we're going to do an AND function. So we want this to be true, and we want this to be true. Well, the second thing that we want to be true is that their team, so the team of that user is equal to the team of this project. So we're going to do underscore this row. So as you can see, oops, I did curly brackets. Whenever you use role or team, it's referring to the employee's team. But if I were to do team right here, it would refer to the project's team. And so whenever we use the select expression, it brings us into the context of this table, allowing us to use columns from that table. But for us to get out of the context of the employee back into the context of the project, we need to use underscore this row. And that will allow us to yet again access the columns of the project. And so it's saying we want to select the employees' IDs, the emails, their keys, of the employees where their role is equal to project manager and their team is equal to the team of this project. So let's go ahead and select copy this because we'll reuse it in a second. And then, so that's limiting what options are available in that dropdown. But we also want to go ahead and suggest this value. So we want to suggest this value, but this is expecting a reference, a single element from this list. And so we're going to wrap it in any. Ideally, there's only one project manager for that team anyways, but if that's not the case for whatever reason, it will select one of the project managers and you can change it. So let's hit save, let's hit done, let's hit save, and let's make sure this works how we would think it would. So let's go to the full screen app, and we go to clients, we go to Google, we go to add a related project. This project name is going to be Google AdSense. The status is it's in sales. The team is async. And as you can see, since I have async selected, because Google is an async client, it's automatically selecting async. And then from there, it's saying, I want the employee that is equal to project manager, and that is for async. If I were to change this over to Q team, it's now automatically switched to Matt P, the manager, project manager of that team. And so now we want to also be able to select developers for project champion and a developer for understudy. So how this is going to go is for project champion, we want to be able to select any developer from this team, but we also don't want them to be able to select the user that is the understudy. And the understudy can select any developer from that team, but it can't be the same user as that project champion. And so let's go ahead and get that logic in place. All right, so we have reference right here, and we have the valid if for project champion, the lead developer of that project. And so we have valid if. We want to paste that, but instead of manager, we want the ones that are developers. All right, and so we have that list right there. But we want to subtract. We want to make sure that there's not the understudy in it. So what this is doing is it's taking a list of all of the developers for that team and making them options. But it's taking all those options and removing the understudy from it. I'm using this minus sign, and that's allowing us to take a list and minus this element. You can't erase a single element from a list. Instead, you have to do a list of a single element subtracted from a list. And so I'm subtracting a list of one element, essentially. It wouldn't work if it's just this and it wasn't a list. And so we're removing this from the valid options. Let's hit copy, hit save, hit done. And then for understudy, we want something very similar, but we don't want them to allow them to choose the project champion as the understudy, because we don't want me to be the project champion and the understudy, because then all my QA work is going back to me. So let's save that. Let's go back to the full screen. Let's give it a little resync. I'll zoom in for you guys. Tad. I think I resynced fully, but I'll go ahead and give it another sync. Okay, so we go to clients. We go to Google. Google has a project Oh, I didn't load it. So let's kick it again. I added the project to Google, did I not? Well, it should show projects right there. Let me just go ahead and get the updated app. So I go clients, Google. This shows projects. So let me open this full screen now. It's not wanting to show me the most recent version. So clients, Google, slide down to projects, and we see the projects for Google, which is Google AdSense. We go here. We have the detail view, but let's go ahead and edit that. And so right now we have the project champions available, and it's not showing anything. That's a fun little issue. We can look into that. So that's not showing up, and understudy's not showing up. Let's debug. And so let's make sure it's not doing that. Maybe it's just uniquely doing it on desktop mode. Project champion, nothing. Okay, so let's make sure that this is a reference to employees. That looks good. And let's see if there's anything wrong with that. Oh, I left this as project manager. Wait, did I? No, this is project manager. So if I go to project champion, valid if, it should be developer. Oh, I did plural developers. Their role is not developers, their role is developer. So hit save. And we need to do the same thing for understudy. There's multiple developers per team, and so we can't infer who, we can't just set an initial value for it because we can't infer which developer is going to be selected. And so if we go to here, and we go here, now we can see all the async developers. If I hit Camron L, then Camron L should not be available right here. Interesting. We can try to fix that now and see why that's not working. But if we hit save, would it work? It would work. Interesting. Okay. Let's edit and let's make this right. Will O. Just checking if it lasts. Okay, so it's still allowing Camron L. Let's check out the valid if real quick. So it's not properly removing this item. Not properly removing that item. So let's go ahead and add, let's do a different way to do this. So we'll say, not only is it role equals developer, team equals this project's team, but we also want the email to not equal this row's. Oh, okay, yeah. We want it to not equal this row's understudy. And then we can actually remove this. So let's see if that works, and we'll apply the same thing to project champion, but do that slight change. We want it to not be the project champion. Oh, did I have it? Huh. Okay. I don't know why that didn't work. Project champion. Let's see if this works though. There's always two ways to solve the business logic. All right, let's go ahead and give it a fresh desktop mode. We go to clients, we go to Google, and then we go to projects. Let's edit. We should not see Camron L. So Camron L is not an option. If we go and select Will O, really would be Will Giles. I can't select Will Giles from here. If I were to clear Camron, I could put Camron here and then add Will Giles to swap places. And that would work just fine. This business logic is working well. And yeah, we actually have 6 more minutes left of this live stream. And so I'm going to try to look at the requirements right here and see what is left. Obviously, next week we have Planet Workspace. We'd love to have you guys there. But the following week, I want to continue this app and build it even further. But before we leave, I want to go ahead and say I want to create something, a slice and a view where it's my current projects. So it's all the projects that if I'm a project manager, it's all the projects I'm a project manager for that is active, that is in progress, or start booked. And if I am a project, can we connect Salesforce Sandbox to AppSheet to use and update data? Yeah, so I'm referring to this question right here. If you go to AppSheet and you hit new data, I believe they've made Salesforce as a option for they've made Salesforce as an option for you to use as a database. Obviously, you want to really make sure that your data types match up. But yeah, that's totally capable. And it's awesome that they have that. Also at Google Next, they announced this new feature called integration connectors. And I don't think it's fully out yet, but that allows you to connect to like dozens and dozens of new data sources. And so that's awesome. Will you be available for a few minutes to answer a question after this? If you want to ask here, I'm more than grateful to maybe stick around and give a few answers after this 2 hours is up and just stay live. But also, if you want to just reach out through Camron at crewtech.com, that's Camron without an E and crewtech with a Q. You can message me there, or I can answer you maybe on live. But let's go back to the app and let's do current projects. And I'll kind of walk you through what I'm thinking and how I'm thinking of it as I go. I believe I actually closed down to my tab. Oh, Salesforce. The Salesforce thing took me out of AppSheet. There we go. So I don't know if I was showing that properly. To access Salesforce, you want to go to Data, go to New Source, then you go to Salesforce, and inside that Salesforce, you can log in using your Salesforce credentials. And then you can use it as a data source for your AppSheet apps. Okay. So I want to build a slice, and the slice is going to work a little bit differently based off of what type of user type you are, because a PM wants to see projects where they're the project manager for. Developers want to see the projects where they're either the project champion or the understudy. And then the salespeople want to see all the projects where the status is sales or contract sent. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a slice. This is a segment of the projects table, and we want to add a slice filter, and we want to do an ifs filter. So we'll say we'll say my projects. This might be a little complicated. I'll try to walk you guys through it as we go. So we have an if statement because we want this to be different based off of what user they are. So if current users, remember we made the slice for this, so don't do this on your thing unless you've already built this slice for current user. And we want any, and we want to wrap that in any function. If this role is equal to, let's do sales first. If the user is sales, we want to return records where the status is in, so let's do the in function, where the status is in this list of statuses. And so this status is the sales. And then I believe the other one is contract sent. I can look into that and make sure that is the correct status taxonomy. So if there's sales, they want to see inside current projects ones that are marked sales as a status or contract sent as a status. All right, now we have our developers. So we want to copy this portion right here, and we want to change sales to developers. Developer, sorry, almost made the same mistake. We want to see the ones where the statuses are in, what was it? Start date booked. The ones that are in progress, and the ones that are in support. Because those are all projects that are actionable for that developer. Okay, so this would mean that we want sales to see all the projects that are currently in sales. We don't want all the developers to see all of them. And so what we want to do is we also want to make sure that not only that is true, but we want to do this. Not only that is true, but this. And we want to see if the user email, the current users, is in a list of, so we want to make sure that they are either the understudy or the project champion. So I am typing all over the place. I'm trying to explain this. I'll re-explain this once I have this typed out. Okay. So let's go ahead and clean up the indentation. Okay, so if they're a developer, I want these projects to show if the status is either start date booked, in progress, or support. So this shows that they are active developer projects. However, this is not showing yet if that project belongs to them, if they're the understudy or the project champion. And so what I'm doing is I'm confirming that they're assigned in one of these two roles to that project. Jake Nod, appreciate it. Thanks for coming. It's good to see you, good to hear from you. Hope you have a good day. Bye. And then just to also specify, both these are references, and so the value that these returns are the key to the column that the record is referencing. So it's going to actually return the email, and so user email, it's making sure that the user email is equal to one of these. And so I don't know if it's going to work 100% right, just like that. And so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this inside of a text, just to make sure each of these are computing as text. Shouldn't be an issue, but it's always a good safeguard. All right, and so we have that. And then last but not least, we have admins. Admins aren't really assigned to projects. And so we're not gonna we're not going to show them my projects view anyways. And so let's do that, and we can copy this whole thing. And this is project champion or project manager. Project manager should see the same projects that the same project statuses as a developer. However, we also want to make sure that they're the project manager instead of the understudy or the project champion. So since we only are checking one role, one part of the project, we can actually just do user email is equal to the text of the project manager of the project. All right. And that's where that ends. All right. So let's look into this and let's explain it one more time. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. So ifs expression. If the first one is true, we have value 1, condition 1. Value 1, condition 1. Sorry, condition 1, value 1. And so this is returning if they're sales, we want to bring the projects where the status is sales or contract sent. If they're a developer, we want to send the projects where the status is one of these three: start date booked, in progress, and support. But also we want to make sure that this developer is either the understudy or the project champion. And then last but not least, we have project managers, and we want to confirm that their projects are also in these three: start date booked, in progress, and support, but also that the user email, the user who's using the app, is the project manager in that project record. And then if we hit save, and then real quickly, let's make a copy of let's make a projects table and projects view. And so we'll go to views. We'll go to primary views because this is a view that we want to be primary. And we'll say my projects. All right. And then we want to make this a table view. And we'll have them sorted by their name. Oh, oops, it's not projects up here. So we want this to be projects, but we want it to be my project specifically. And then we want to sort them by the name of the project in ascending alphabetical. And then we want to manually set the columns. So we want the name. We don't want the ID. We want the client there. We don't want the status, team, project manager, all that stuff. We just want this right here. So let's go ahead and remove those. And so now I don't see any projects for me right there. And so what we can do is, what projects are mine? Well, I do have a project for Google that we can assign to me. That's the client. I go down to projects. This is assigned to me, but it's not in sales. I mean, it's currently in sales, not a active one for developers. And so if I go in here and change the status from sales to in progress and hit save, then go to my projects, we can see that I, as a developer, have a project that I'm either the understudy or the project champion of, and it's in one of those three statuses. If we went ahead and switch this to Austin, a salesperson, and then we have to change the domain. If I do this as Austin, I don't see anything. But if I were to create a new project, going to clients, and then do a new project for Amazon that says inventory management. It's in sales. Let's say it's not assigned to any team yet because it's in sales still. And so let's hit save. Then if I go to my projects, Austin, who is a salesperson, has his project inventory management app until he ships it as something that is no longer a sales related status. So start date book, that means it's now ready for the team to work on it. So we'll do team is Q team, project manager is Matt, Alyssa is the project champion, Clark is the understudy. Hit save. That project is no longer in Austin's court, but now something for Alyssa and Clark and Matt to focus on. Yeah, that is us building a simple CRM that allows you to manage employees, clients, projects, hierarchy of who is working on what projects, what project is currently in whose task list, and able to see a project go from start to finish, just like that. That is the end of the development segment of this webinar, and I really appreciate you guys for coming. We now have a time for QA if you guys have questions you guys want me to answer, but I'm gonna go ahead and talk about James right here. James says, will you be available for a few minutes to answer a question after this? James, if you want to type out your question right here, and it's something I can actually talk about right now, that's great. I'll answer it. But again, if not, you can always reach out to Camron at crewtech.com right here on the screen and ask me the question there. I'll give a few seconds just to let QAs roll in if you guys have any questions. Otherwise, okay, we have James. You gave me a perfect example where you filled project manager, project champion, and understudy. Great. That's awesome. Was it probably related to the you don't want the project champion to be the same as the understudy? Is it that validation with that part or something else? Okay. What if you have an unknown list, a field inspector app with 2 or 3 or 4 inspectors? So you would probably want to handle that instead of having a column for each one. So you don't want like unlimited lists of like inspector 1, inspector 2, inspector 3, inspector 4, inspector 5. You don't really want something like that. Rather, what you would do is something a little bit closer to our example here with client contacts. And so I think YouTube, we have client contacts. And so you would have let's say a project inside a field inspector, and then you want to have a list of project inspectors. And so you would hit add, you would add a new project inspector, and it would count the amount of related inspectors, and it would say, it would initialize the first one as 1. This is the primary inspector. You select your employee that's going to be an inspector, you hit save. And then whenever you hit that again, now it's going to say 2, and it's going to have initial value. So it's going to do the count of this project's related inspectors plus 1. That way, whenever it creates the next one, it iterates 1 each time. And so then you have a hierarchy of this is inspector 1, this is inspector 2, this is inspector 3, and so on. And what you could do is you can have a button that says like make primary inspector. And what it does is that if they're number 3, it sets that person to number 1, and everybody below that one, so inspector 1, inspector 2 previously, gets bumped up to inspector 2 and 3 now. So you can reorder it like that. But yeah, James, that's that's probably how you would want to do it. You would also probably want some sort of validation similar to the situation with understudy and Project Champion, where you would want to remove all previous inspectors selected for that project to be removed from the list of when you're creating a new inspector. Whenever you're adding another inspectors to that project. Do you feel like that answers your question? And that might be something you can take action on. So if I'm creating a new report and I just want to add an N number of inspector inline, I can achieve that effect. Yeah, you could literally add 1,000 inspectors and it wouldn't have an issue. You would probably want to sort them by the nth number of inspector they are. But yeah, you totally could click view right here, click edit that view, and then go into sort and then sort it by what number inspector they are. Sweet. There's currently 9 other viewers inside the chat. I'm sure that you guys might have a question just like something like that. And if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer them right now. A little bit extra time. Yeah. I'll just kind of wait for a question, but I'll just talk about what we do at Crew Technology and AppSheet training. AppSheet is a Google product, and one thing we've recognized far before is Google product back in 2019 or something when we started this channel. This product of Google AppSheet does not have the same level and extensiveness of education that other Google products have. You can hop on YouTube and search a million tutorials for Google Docs, Google Sheets, a million tutorials for app scripts, for BigQuery. And before we started this, it was so hard to find education around AppSheet. And so this is just a way for us to pour into the community and pour into the product of AppSheet that we love. But also, AppSheet training is ran by Crew Technologies. We are a Google partner, and we provide AppSheet services, whether that's development, consulting, support for current projects. We do milestone, and we do retainer style projects. And so if you're interested in AppSheet, totally reach out to us. You can reach out to Austin at crewtech.com. It looks like this right here. If you would like us to work on a project with you. So it's, oh, I actually typed it wrong. If you're interested in doing a project with Crew Technologies, you can reach out to Austin at crewtech.com. He's our sales guy, and he has a CRM just like this that he can put you in and kind of have a tech talk with you and prescribe how Crew can help you fulfill your AppSheet needs and what you want to do with AppSheet and how you want to automate and digitize your business. But yeah, if nobody has any more questions, super grateful for you guys coming today. I hope that you guys learned something valuable that you can bring home, bring to work, and automate and digitize your business solutions. So thank you guys for coming so much. Again, our webinar that's every other week is Planet Workspace. It's me and other Google Developer Experts who host a webinar teaching you guys about either AppSheet or other things in the Google Workspace ecosystem. Love to have you guys there. And then the week following that, we're likely going to have an extension of this app where we build it out even further, hopefully add some automation, some emails, some maybe some change log recording of statuses. That way we can see how long a project stays on each status and so on. But thank you guys for coming. See you next time. Catch you later. Camron Upton.